Have you ever been stopped mid-sentence by someone who squinted at you and said, "Wait, that's your age?" Maybe they thought you were 10 years younger. Maybe they asked for your skincare routine. But what if I told you it's not the cream, it's not the kale, and it's definitely not magic? Looking younger than your age often has nothing to do with your DNA and everything to do with something far more powerful, your psychology. The way you think, the way you live, the way you carry stress, or more importantly, the way you don't. This isn't about vanity. This is about invisible inner habits that quietly preserve your glow while everyone else is aging from the inside out. People who look younger than their age tend to live by a different emotional code. And today, you're going to find out what it is. Because behind every youthful face is a mindset the world rarely talks about. So, if you've ever looked in the mirror and wondered, why do I still look like this? This video will give you the real answer. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who gets carded at restaurants. Youth may fade, but the right mindset, that stays timeless. Let's begin. 1. You have an unbreakable spirit. There's a reason some people walk through decades of suffering, loss, betrayal, financial collapse, even chronic illness, and somehow still look unreasonably youthful. It's not genetic luck or secret serums, it's an unbreakable spirit, a kind of emotional resilience that isn't talked about enough, especially in a world obsessed with surface-level solutions. These individuals don't escape stress, they meet it face to face. But they don't let it root itself in their identity, and that's where the secret lies. You see, the body listens to the mind in more ways than we admit. When the mind is flooded with anxiety, resentment, or unresolved grief, it triggers a chemical war inside the body. Cortisol surges, sleep suffers, inflammation rises. This internal storm doesn't just stay in your bloodstream. It begins etching itself into your skin, your posture, the way your face rests. Even when you're not thinking, the body becomes a canvas of accumulated pain. That's why people who carry bitterness, regrets, and suppressed tension age faster. They're not just older in years, they're worn out by the weight of what they refuse to release. The Stoics taught us that we may not control what happens, but we always control our response. The external world is chaotic, but the internal world, that's our kingdom. And yet, most people have surrendered that throne. They live in constant reaction mode, allowing every slight, every worry, every bad memory to camp out in their minds, rent-free. And with every minute spent ruminating on what they cannot change, they hand over not just their peace, but their youth. What ages you isn't the hardship. It's the refusal to let it go. There's nothing romantic about being emotionally reckless. Carrying every insult, every heartbreak, every loss like a badge of honor doesn't make you strong. It makes you tired. True strength is quiet. It's in the man who lost everything and still shows up with grace. It's in the woman who buried her dreams but still smiles with sincerity. Not because they don't feel, but because they've learned to feel without drowning. That kind of resilience rewires the nervous system. It allows rest, it nurtures recovery, and it reflects, quite literally, on the face. Youth, after all, is the body's reward for inner peace. So, if people keep telling you that you look younger than your age, take a moment to reflect. Have you practiced emotional discipline? Have you learned how to let go, forgive, detach, not for others, but for your own preservation? Or if you haven't, maybe this is your sign. The cost of holding on is too high. It's not just stealing your sleep, it's etching years onto your face. Let it go. Not for them, for you, for your spirit, for your vitality. Because the real anti-aging secret, it's not in a bottle, it's in the strength you carry and the storms you no longer let shape your soul. 2. You embrace change instead of fearing it. There's a subtle but powerful difference between growing older and simply aging. You've likely met someone, maybe at work, a distant relative, or an old friend from college, who despite their advancing years moves through life with a surprising lightness. Not because their life is perfect, but because they've mastered something that most people avoid. They've made peace with change. While others dig their heels into routines, they flow, and it shows, not just in their optimism, but in their energy, their posture, and even their face. Compare that to someone like Harold, a retired accountant I once knew. He had spent decades with the same habits, the same breakfast, the same recliner, the same complaints. When his wife passed and the world he knew shifted, he didn't bend, he cracked. You could see it in how quickly he aged in just 2 years. The light left his eyes, his shoulders slumped, and more than anything, there was a sharp bitterness to his presence, as though the world had betrayed him by moving on. In reality, he had betrayed himself by resisting change at every turn. This isn't just poetic metaphor, it's psychology and biology in motion. The human mind, when denied novelty and stimulation, begins to atrophy. Neuroplasticity declines, emotional resilience weakens, and the physical body follows suit. And it's not just about learning a new skill. It's about the willingness to evolve when everything inside you wants to cling to what's known. Stoicism teaches us to prepare the mind, not just for adversity, but for impermanence. Epictetus wrote, "It's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. If your judgment resists what life brings, you suffer needlessly and visibly." People who age with grace aren't necessarily more fortunate. They're more adaptable. When life changes the rules, they learn the new game. When their body slows down, they don't mourn youth. They honor what remains. When technology outpaces them, they stay curious instead of cynical. And that curiosity? It reflects in how they walk, in how they smile, in how they're always learning, be it a new book, a new idea, or simply a new way of seeing the same life. Rigidity is the true aging agent. It's not the years that wear you down. It's the resistance to change, the fear of discomfort, the refusal to let go of what once defined you. But if you can learn to say yes when your instincts scream no, to stay open when your mind says retreat, then you begin to regenerate. Not just emotionally, but physiologically. Aging is inevitable, but decaying before your time, that's optional. The man or woman who welcomes change, who sees every shift not as a threat but a new terrain to explore, carries with them a kind of youthfulness that no wrinkle cream will ever match. And when you live like that, your soul becomes lighter. And when the soul is light, the body follows. That's not just a secret to looking younger, it's a path to living fully. 3. Your mind is always curious. Here's a fact that's often ignored. Your brain begins to decline decades before your body ever shows it. By the time most people hit their mid-40s, if they've mentally checked out of growth and stopped challenging their worldview, the deterioration has already begun. Not just cognitively, but physically, emotionally, energetically. This is the hidden truth behind why some people seem ageless and others feel old before their time. It's not about collagen or diet alone, it's about mental firepower. And at the heart of that fire is one trait: curiosity. Curiosity isn't just a personality quirk, it's a psychological force that keeps the brain alive. And when the brain is alive, the body responds. But the absence of curiosity, that's where aging accelerates. When people stop asking questions about themselves, about others, about the world, they begin to shrink into a predictable life, a life of routine, of passive consumption, of talking instead of wondering. They stop being fascinated. And without fascination, the lights dim, not just mentally, but spiritually, and eventually, physically. You've seen this before in people who once had vitality but now operate on autopilot. They complain more, move less, and carry a heaviness not because of life's weight, but because their inner world has collapsed into repetition. They stop evolving. They stop being interested, and their bodies, like faithful mirrors, show that stagnation in the form of tired eyes, rigid posture, shallow expression, and slow movements. The Stoics spoke often of the dangers of complacency. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, warned that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. When your thoughts revolve only around comfort, predictability, and clinging to what you already know, the soul grows dull. But when the mind is constantly challenged, when you choose to question, to engage, to explore even uncomfortable truths, the soul sharpens, and so does your energy. And yes, so does your presence. Curiosity is a quiet rebellion against aging. It keeps the brain plastic, open, flexible. It invites new connections, rewires stagnant beliefs, and keeps life emotionally vivid. When you are genuinely curious about psychology, about a new book, about someone else's experience, you activate your nervous system differently. There's less cortisol, more dopamine, less rigidity, more movement. And in that physiological cocktail, your body interprets the message clearly. We are still alive, still learning, still needed. And so it stays young to keep up. If people often mistake you for being younger than your age, it's likely not your skincare routine, it's your mental vitality. The flame in your mind hasn't dimmed. But if you're feeling older than you are, if your days are blurring together, if your curiosity has been replaced by distraction or apathy, consider this your invitation back. To wonder again, to ask again, to be excited again. Because the body doesn't forget what the mind refuses to renew. Age will touch all of us, but it touches slower those who choose to keep learning. Not out of pressure, but out of passion. That's not just wisdom, that's rejuvenation. And that right there is the secret to timeless energy. 4. You express your emotions freely. You can often recognize emotional suppression not in someone's words, but in their face. The tension etched into their brow, the downturned corners of their mouth, the hollow look behind their eyes. They may say they're fine, they may smile out of politeness, but their body tells the truth. Emotional suppression ages you, not just internally but visibly. It adds weight to your presence, dulls your energy, and hardens your appearance in ways no skincare routine can reverse. And yet, this suppression is exactly what many are taught to do, especially men. The cultural expectation is to stay composed, be strong, and never let feelings spill over. But there's a hidden cost to that armor. It doesn't just protect, it corrodes. When emotions are locked away, they don't vanish, they ferment. They quietly flood the nervous system with stress hormones, tightening muscles, compromising immunity, dulling vitality. Over time, this shows up in ways you can't ignore. Wrinkles deepen, posture contracts. The body begins to mirror the emotional rigidity inside. People who've spent years bottling up sadness, anger, or even joy tend to carry a kind of emotional stiffness that makes them appear older than they are. It's not aging from the outside in, it's decay from the inside out. Stoic philosophy isn't about repression. That's the most common misconception. Stoicism is about clarity. It teaches us to understand and observe our emotions, not to be dominated by them, but also not to deny them. A Stoic doesn't pretend he's unaffected. He feels fully, then chooses his response with wisdom. Emotional mastery comes not from muting what we feel, but from processing it with maturity. Those who allow themselves to express grief, frustration, and even vulnerability do not weaken themselves. They detoxify. They let the current flow instead of building dams that eventually burst. And ironically, that ability to feel deeply without losing oneself is what keeps a person vibrant. Look at someone who seems light, almost buoyant in how they carry themselves. They may not have fewer problems, but they likely have fewer emotional blockages. Their face is more relaxed. Their energy is more grounded. They don't wear the past as a mask. Their body isn't in a constant state of bracing, and this reflects not just in how they look, but in how people respond to them. Emotional openness, when paired with Stoic strength, creates something rare: presence without heaviness, wisdom without bitterness. If you've been told you look younger than your age, this may be why. You've allowed yourself to release instead of repress, and if you haven't, there's no better time to start. Your face is the canvas of your inner world. Free it from the weight of unspoken words. Choose expression over suppression, not because it's dramatic, but because it's healthy. Aging isn't just a matter of time. It's the story your body tells about how well you've handled your emotions. And the ones who remain young, even as the years pass, are the ones who never let their feelings rot in silence. They release, they restore, and in doing so, they radiate. 5. You surround yourself with positive energy. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt heavier, like the air itself carried a weight? Or spent time with someone who left you feeling inexplicably tired, as if your spirit had to shrink just to make space for theirs? That's not your imagination. That's energy. And it's contagious, far more than we realize. Most people think aging is just about biology, but it's not. Your emotional environment is just as responsible for the lines on your face as your DNA. When you surround yourself with negative, draining people, chronic complainers, passive-aggressive co-workers, overly critical relatives, it doesn't just bruise your mood, it bruises your body. It tightens your muscles, disrupts your sleep, raises your stress levels, and slowly wears you down from the inside out. I once knew a man in his late 50s named Raymond. He wasn't particularly wealthy. He didn't take supplements or visit spas, but people always assumed he was at least 10 years younger than he was. His secret? He was extremely careful about who he gave his time to. After a tough divorce in his 40s, he made a decision: only keep people in his life who made his presence feel lighter, not heavier. It wasn't a selfish act. It was self-preservation. He said something I'll never forget: "If I have to recover from being around you, you don't get to be around me." That wasn't cold, it was wise, and it worked. Raymond had a glow to him. He walked into every room with calm energy. He spoke softly, smiled genuinely, and left people feeling better, not drained. That's the kind of man whose presence rewrites the energy of the room. And it wasn't magic, it was a boundary. Science confirms this. Positive social interactions reduce cortisol, the stress hormone responsible for premature aging. Laughter, connection, meaningful conversations. These aren't just pleasant experiences, they're healing practices. They protect your heart, your mind, even your skin. That's why some people age like milk, while others age like wine. Now look around your life. Who are you letting in? Who are you allowing to speak into your energy? If someone constantly brings negativity, even under the guise of being realistic or just venting, they are quietly reshaping your nervous system. They are turning your body into a home for stress, and your body keeps score. But the beauty of all this? You have a choice. You can start curating your environment the way you'd curate your home. You wouldn't let someone track mud on your carpet. Don't let them do it to your mind. You want to look younger, feel lighter, radiate life? Start by protecting your peace like your youth depends on it, because it does. The people around you are either extending your vitality or accelerating your decay. Choose wisely. Because one of the most radical, age-defying acts is to protect your energy as if your life depended on it, because it does. 6. You live with passion and purpose. Did you know that one of the most consistent predictors of longevity and youthfulness isn't genetics, skincare, or even diet? It's having a sense of purpose. Research from the University of Michigan found that people with a strong sense of meaning in life reduced their risk of mortality by up to 23%. That's not wishful thinking, it's biology. When the body has a reason to wake up, to create, to serve, It resists decay. When the mind is engaged in something that matters, the spirit stays young. Yet look around. How many people are just waiting out their days? You can see it in their faces, drawn, expressionless. Their posture sinks, their eyes seem dull, and their voice lacks weight. They are not sick, but they are disconnected. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Emotional stagnation is as dangerous as physical neglect. A life without purpose becomes a slow erosion of vitality. Contrast that with someone whose life is anchored in purpose. They move differently, their words have conviction, their presence carries energy that feels almost defiant to age. These people are not necessarily rich or famous, but they are internally fueled, and it shows. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." When those ambitions fade, the body soon follows. Purpose is not some grand, dramatic mission. It can be simple. Teaching, building, writing, serving, creating, mentoring. Whatever reminds you that your existence leaves a meaningful imprint. It's the thing that, when you talk about it, your eyes brighten. It's what brings you fully into the moment, where time feels irrelevant and energy abundant. When you operate from purpose, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, chemicals that fight depression, reduce inflammation, and yes, keep your skin glowing and your body strong. The Stoics believed that without purpose, life loses its shape. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This internal alignment between who you want to be and how you choose to live becomes the foundation of not just youth, but peace. And peace, as any doctor will tell you, is the most powerful anti-aging force on earth. If you've been told you look younger than your age, take a moment to reflect. Maybe it's not your skincare routine or your genes. Maybe it's the fire in your belly, the thing that makes your life feel meaningful. And if you don't feel that right now, don't panic. It's never too late to find it. As Viktor Frankl wrote, "Life is never made unbearable by circumstances, but only by lack of meaning and purpose." Because in the end, age is not the enemy. Emptiness is. Stay full. Stay lit from within. Purpose doesn't stop time, but it makes sure you live every second of it fully awake. And that glow, it's not youth, it's aliveness. 7. You let go of the past. You can see it on their face before they even speak. The people who are haunted by the past. Their eyes don't focus, as if staring at something behind you. Their shoulders slump from invisible weight. Their presence feels heavy, not from years, but from unhealed memories. And here's the truth most people won't say. Your past doesn't just live in your mind. It lives in your body. Every regret you've clung to, every betrayal you never forgave, every time you said, "I should have known better." It all carves itself into your skin, your posture, your tone. Holding on to pain accelerates the aging process in a way no wrinkle cream can fight. A man named Thomas once sat in front of me, mid-60s, successful on paper but visibly exhausted. He looked 75. He confessed that for decades he'd carried guilt from a failed marriage and the fallout it caused with his kids. He never truly forgave himself. Every night before bed, he'd replay the same mental reel. What he said, what he didn't say, how he could have done it differently. The result? Chronic stress, high blood pressure, insomnia, and a body that aged faster than its years. But it wasn't just his body, it was his spirit. He moved like someone who'd stopped expecting joy. The science agrees. Cortisol, the stress hormone, rises with emotional rumination. Left unchecked, it wears down your immune system, reduces skin elasticity, and leads to inflammation, the silent driver behind aging, fatigue, and even disease. And the worst part? The people you're holding resentment against often move on with their lives untouched. Meanwhile, you remain stuck in a loop that not only poisons your peace but your appearance. Stoic philosophy knew this centuries ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The Stoics weren't naive about pain, they just refused to let it live rent-free in their present. Forgiveness, they believed, wasn't about weakness. It was clarity, a conscious decision to no longer bleed from wounds that no longer exist. You've met people like Thomas, and maybe you've been like him too. But contrast that with those who radiate something lighter. Their face is soft, their laugh genuine. They aren't young. They've just decided not to be prisoners of what's already gone. They've buried the past where it belongs and chosen peace, not out of denial, but out of discipline. If people tell you that you look younger than your age, it might not be your diet or genes. It might be the absence of that invisible load. And if you still carry it, know this: the past only has power if you let it. The moment you release it, you give your body permission to heal, your mind permission to breathe, and your soul permission to live again. Let it go, not for them, but for you. Because there is no anti-aging treatment more powerful than peace. If people keep guessing your age wrong, in your favor, don't just laugh it off. There's a reason behind that youthful glow, and it's not some miracle moisturizer. It's deeper. It's your resilience, your curiosity, your refusal to carry emotional dead weight. And if no one's mistaken your age yet, that's not an insult. It's a signal. A wake-up call to change what you feed your mind, how you manage your stress, and who you surround yourself with. Because time might tick the same for everyone, but how it shows up on your face, that's personal. It's earned. It's a reflection of what you tolerate, what you release, and how much joy you allow yourself to feel. So if this video cracked open a truth you've felt in your gut but never had words for, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share it with someone who's aging like fine wine, or wants to. And tell me in the comments, what's the wildest age guess someone's made about you? I want to hear it. Because youth isn't always about counting candles. Sometimes it's about the fire still burning inside. Stay sharp, stay soulful, and above all, stay untouchably alive.